You're listening to The Continuing Adventures of Billy Barbarian, written and read by J.R. Murdoch. For more information, please visit ofgnomesandwarves.com or jrmurdoch.com. Billy hadn't taken long to regain his senses and come to grips with the sheer magnitude of Sethopolis. Jack Indabocks had explained that the city sprawled for nearly 6 miles farther south and twice that from the east and west, and the buildings only got bigger as you got deeper into the city. Billy was fascinated by this and couldn't wait to get inside and start seeing everything. But there was one thing that needed to be done first, and the guard holding a spear to block his entrance into the city was there to make sure he did it. "I don't have any papers," Billy said, his face a mess of confusion. Jack had papers, as he was a citizen of Sethopolis. "If you don't have any papers, then you need to swear fealty to King Seth and pay a tithe." The guard frowned at Billy. Garbed in a shirt and puffy pants, both with gold and purple vertical stripes, the guard pointed to a door to the side of the gate. "Pay? A tithe?" "Billy, a tithe is a payment that you'll be loyal to King Seth and mind all his rules. We just need to go into that office and get this over with, so you'll have your papers." "I don't have any money, Jack, you know that." Billy thought hard for a moment. What did he have that was of value that he didn't really need? Everything he carried had a purpose. If not for protection, it was for hunting or eating. He didn't want to part with anything he had. He visibly faltered as his head reeled. "Billy, are you all right?" Billy didn't answer. The overwhelming situation caused him to sway. Jack did his best to keep Billy on his feet, but being that Jack was not nearly as large as Billy fell to the ground and the world went black. Billy awoke to the smell of something quite pungent. It was the smell of a woolly horse of the north after it had been plunged into water for the first time, thick and musky. Billy tossed his head from side to side to keep from smelling it any more, and this helped him clear his thoughts. Sitting up, he could see a guard, not the same one he'd met at the gate, but dressed in the same manner, holding a vial containing a green fluid. "Take your time getting up," the guard said with a weak smile. "I think you're going to be fine." "You had us worried there, big fella," Jack said as he helped Billy into a chair. Billy found himself in the office the first guard had pointed to. The tithing office was filled with pictures and signs. Billy couldn't read any of the signs, and he supposed the pictures were to be graphic representation of what those signs said. His mind must have still been fuzzy as he suddenly noticed the guard, now sitting behind a large desk, read something. "No drunkenness in public. No defacing of official buildings, monuments, or signs, or people. No killing. No fighting. No using King Seth's name in the following manner: as a joke, telling of a fable, making mention of him in bad light, or in an effort to make others laugh at his expense." The guard read on and on for nearly 20 minutes. Billy didn't catch most of it, but as he looked around the office, he gathered that the pictures were depictions of not only the offense, but the punishment for those offenses. For example, one picture showed 2 men fighting, and a picture next to that one showed 2 men in shackles in public square. "Now, if you're in agreement to these rules, I need you to sign here, and initial here." The parchment had so many words that Billy just followed where the guard pointed. Taking up a quill and tapping off the excess ink, Billy had seen quills used before. He scribbled wavy lines on each of the places the guard had pointed to, and made smaller scribbles where initials were needed. This seemed to please the guard, as he blew on the ink until it dried and rolled up the parchment. "So, what is your tithe?" Billy gripped himself and looked at the guard in shock. "I have nothing of value. I don't know what to give." The guard leaned in as if he was going to tell Billy a secret. "This is just a formality. Anything will do. Even food." Billy's eyes lit up. He had food. He removed his pack and started rummaging through it. He pulled out a jar of beets and handed it to the guard. "Excellent. Billy Barbarian, I proudly declare you a legal visitor to our city of Sethopolis. Have a wonderful stay. If you should wish to become a citizen one day, I'll be more than happy to help you through that process as well." Billy beamed. He'd never felt so proud of himself. He had made it to the big city, and he was now going where so few barbarians feared to tread. Even his own parents had never left the north. This was the greatest day of his life. "Well, Billy, are you ready to go?" Jack asked. "More than you can imagine." The inside of the city proved more amazing than the outside. Buildings of every shape, size, and height. Billy's home had only consisted of short, squat houses, all constructed mostly of mud, stone, and wood. To see buildings that towered high into the sky, some hundreds of feet tall, and made completely of brick or wood, fascinated Billy. Taverns, inns, office buildings, apartment complexes, Billy wanted to take it all in. Everywhere they walked, they were passed by speeding carts of all size, shape, and color. Some pulled by simple horses, others pulled by large lizard creatures with horned faces and splint tails. Still others were pulled by low-flying, featherless birds that screeched as they passed. There was a large amount of pedestrian traffic along the cobbled roads, but people stayed out of the middle of the roads to allow the faster-moving traffic to pass by unimpeded. Jack was the perfect tour guide. Though he pointed out such things as statues, fountains, and parks, he also pointed out each new building. He explained to Billy, though Billy had a hard time grasping it, that office buildings contained hundreds of people who worked. Billy didn't understand accounting, file management, or any of the other works Jack mentioned. Instead, he wondered how they hunted for food, or if they grew things inside such buildings. Work performed inside baffled him. "See that building there?" Jack asked, pointing to a tall building that shone as if it were made of gold. "That's Stump Tower. Stump is the biggest real estate developer in Sethopolis. He's got towers and casinos all over town." "That's a building, not a tower," Billy quipped. "Stump likes to call them towers." "Perhaps we should pay Stump a visit and explain to him that he's wrong." Whoa, slow down there, boy. No one tells Ronald Stump he's wrong. If you ever, and I mean ever, see a man dressed in golden robes, looking like the richest man you've ever seen in your life, don't under any circumstances talk to him. Next to the king, he's the most powerful man in Sethopolis, and no one of our station in life is going to talk to people of their station. Do you understand?" Jack's demeanor had taken Billy by surprise. Up until this point, Jack had remained cool and calm, and now looked tense and nervous. "Why?" "You just don't talk to men like that. They talk to you, and you listen. Just trust me on this one." "Okay, what about the king? Can I talk to him?" "No! Weren't you listening? You don't talk to these people. I knew a guy who had a friend that had gotten thrown into the dungeon just because he told Stump that he thought the gold in the towers looked gaudy. These are men you just don't mess with. I'm going to leave it at that." Billy thought for a long time. In his tribe, anyone could talk to anyone else, and they were just words. If you didn't like something, he didn't see any harm in saying so. Even so, he had to acknowledge that Jack was wiser in the ways of the big city, and perhaps Billy should just keep his tongue. "So, where are we headed?" Billy asked after a long silence. His neck had gotten tired of looking up at each and every building as they passed them by, and he contented himself to just looking down the neat, straight lines the roads ran in. "We're going to get some chow mein and meet a friend of mine." "Chow mein? What's that?" "Food." Billy's stomach rumbled at the thought of food. He'd not eaten since that morning, and even that had only consisted of vegetables. And now the sun was going down. He felt quite hungry. Whatever chow mein was, it had to be better than being hungry. Maybe it would even have meat in it. Jack led the way deep into the city. Street lights were lit and torches placed on the outside of every building. Jack made his way to a comparatively short building, its sign lit by a trough of fire, though Billy was unable to read it. The entrance stairs were lined with pillars that held up an ornate red canopy. Tassels hung from decorative circles that trimmed the canopy, and these waved and spun in the gentle evening breeze. They were greeted at the entrance by a young girl, though Billy was unsure of her age. She wore a shiny blue shirt and black pants, and had her hair tied up in a tight bun. Billy was certain that this was the cause of her current squinting. He wanted to help the girl by cutting her hair loose, but refrained. The girl bowed. "Welcome to Phat Cao. Two for dinner?" Jack bowed to the woman. "Actually, we're meeting someone. We'll just show ourselves in." Billy smiled at the girl as she bowed and motioned for the two to enter. The interior of the restaurant was fascinating. Long, slender dragons adorned the walls in intricate carvings. Large vases holding segmented sticks of varying thickness and length sat in unused corners. A small bridge crossed a small, tiny pool where white and orange fish swam. The stream divided the upper section from the lower section. Billy stopped and tried to reach down and grab a fish, but Jack stopped him. "Those fish aren't for eating. We'll be eating with my friends soon enough. Come on." Jack led Billy to the rear of the restaurant, to a set of stairs. If Billy hadn't been looking straight at them, the stairs would have blended so well with the wall that he would have missed them. He wondered what else he may have missed as they walked through the throng of tables and chairs that spread further than any eating establishment Billy had ever been in. People all watched as Billy and Jack made their way to the stairs. Billy's stomach growled as he saw the food in the fancy ceramic bowls. As sneakily as he could, he grabbed a chicken leg off a patron's plate and only stared back at the shocked man. The stairs led up, as most stairs do, but to Billy's surprise, these stairs curled quickly around and behind the wall and continued to spiral up. Obviously designed for narrower people, and Billy bumped his pack several times on the walls. This jostling didn't prevent him from eating the chicken leg. It was crunchy, crispy goodness that made his stomach sing. At the top of the stairs, Billy finished the meat on the chicken leg and sucked at the bone, making loud slurping noises. The massive room they entered was larger than any house Billy had ever been in. It was similarly decorated as below, except without the mass of tables and chairs with people eating. There were several couches and a sunken seating area that surrounded a small fire pit. Along the walls were glass containers that held more of the fish like the pool below. At the far end of the room was a desk. Billy wondered what the fascination was people in the city had for desks, and a short man with the same squinting eyes as the girl who'd welcomed them had. The man wore a long shirt and baggy pants, both black and trimmed in wide white bands. He had a long, thin mustache, and stood when he saw the pair. "Phat!" Jack yelled out. "Jack Indabocks, you were done much faster than I think you would. Phat, let me introduce you to Billy Barbarian. Billy, this is Phat Cao." Billy squirmed at the mention of the name. "Phat Cao?" "No, Phat Cao. It sounds very much like Phat Cao, but my name, Phat Cao." Billy didn't hear any difference, and just stared stupidly at Phat with the chicken bone hanging from the corner of his mouth. Phat Cao looked dubious. He and Jack were obviously good friends, but Billy felt out of place chewing on the chicken bone. Phat must have expected Jack to come back with someone different. "You tell me you'll bring help. Who this?" Phat asked as they made their way back to Phat's desk. "Phat, honest, this is the guy. You've got to understand Iman's very specific instructions. He give instruction to find help. A strong person. Is he strong?" Phat pointed an angry finger at Billy as he sat behind his desk. Billy felt offended by Jack and Phat speaking about him like he wasn't there. He decided to enter the conversation. "Phat? Like chicken fat?" Billy motioned with the chicken bone as if to emphasize his point. Both he and Jack sat opposite the desk from Phat. Phat sighed. "Explain I will, but like it I will not. My name not Phat. My name Phat. I am not Cow. My last name Cow. My name is Phat Cao. If you stop pronouncing it wrong, you would understand. But you are barbarian, and your hearing not so good as mine." Billy poked a finger into his ear, as if clearing it would help him hear better. "Phat Cao?" "No, not Phat Cao. Phat Cao." Phat turned and looked at Jack. "It must be nice having such easy name to pronounce, Jack Indabocks." Jack held his hands up defensively. "Hey, I'm not the one who named you. Let's get back on topic here. We need to bring Billy to Iman." "Who's the man?" Billy asked. "Iman," Jack repeated. "Any man?" "Iman is his name." "I don't understand." Jack groaned. "I'll introduce you to the person when we get there." Billy decided he'd let this one go. So many confusing names. He had hoped he'd be able to keep them all straight. People from the north had names that were much simpler. That was what Billy liked about Jack when they had first met. "You don't understand," Jack said in a hushed tone as he leaned in close to Phat. "He's a rube. He's stupid." Billy heard stupid. He'd been called that before. Even his own family had called him stupid, and this instantly enraged him. He didn't like being called that, and he decided to express his displeasure the only way he knew how. He removed his battle axe from his pack and planted it into the desk between Jack and Phat. Phat sat back calmly. Then his expression shifted to anger. "You see what you do? You see what you do?" He more yelled at than asked of Jack. "This will get no better. You take him back where you find him and leave him. Maybe find him new home." Phat turned to Billy. "Get axe out of desk." Billy sneered at Phat, but couldn't help but feel he messed things up between Jack and Phat. As quietly as he could, if you can consider leaping onto a desk and growling as you remove an axe from hard wood quiet, Billy retrieved his axe and turned to leave. "Billy, come back!" Jack called after Billy. "Phat, I'll be right back. We're going to make this work, I promise." "You go eat. I need thinking time. Now go!" Jack and Billy retired themselves back downstairs at the first table they found and ordered dinner. "I don't understand why he thinks he's fat." Billy still mulled over Phat's name. "Or why he thinks he's a cow. He's not a big guy. I mean, really. He's quite small and light on his feet." Jack and Billy found a seat near the stairs. Jack had said he wanted to be nearby when Phat came down for them. Food had been ordered, drinks served, and Billy still thought out loud. "Billy, please, it's just a name. Don't dwell on it." Billy's new friend was in a foul, brooding mood. This was starting to get Billy down, so he thought of the best way to cheer his friend up. "Stop brooding or I'll kill you," Billy said quite nonchalantly. "What?" Billy stood up and quickly drew his sword. He kicked over the table, causing the drinks to splash on the people at the table next to them. Jack had been leaning against it, and this caused him to sit bolt upright. Leveling his sword at Jack's neck, Billy said, "Cheer up, or I'll kill you." Jack forced a smile. I'm happy. See? I'm happy now. Thank you." Billy squinted at his new friend, smiled, and sheathed his sword. "That's better." The other patrons stared at the spectacle. Jack righted the table with Billy's help. "Billy, you're in the city now. You can't do things like that." "I tell you, things like this happen," Phat called from upstairs. "See? You're upsetting my friend. All I want to do is help you get a job." "You told him I was stupid." Billy crossed his massive arms across his equally massive chest. "I want him to think you're not going to negotiate for a higher wage. If he thinks you're in it for the money, like the last couple of guys we tried to hire, he'll feel better about hiring you." I guess that makes sense. Who's the man you two were talking about?" "Shh! Don't say his name out loud, and certainly not in here." "Why?" "You ask too many questions. Please, just keep your mouth shut for now, and don't say anything. And this will all work out just fine. You will be well paid, and you can enjoy the rest of the city in your own time." "Really?" "Really. Now here comes the food. Let's eat and wait for Phat to come down." They had ordered new drinks once the food was served. Billy couldn't identify much of what he ate, but it was hot and tasted good. So, being that Jack didn't want him to, he didn't ask any more questions. He hadn't seen any spoons or forks on the table, so Billy ate with his fingers. Big, meaty fingers. That was until he saw Jack eating with 2 sticks. Jack clicked the sticks at Billy. "Chopsticks!" Billy fumbled with the sticks for several seconds. Jack even tried to show him how to use them, all to no avail. Billy resolved to eating with his fingers. He was a barbarian, after all, and Jack allowed him without further argument. The meal passed by without further conversation. Billy, who still wore his pack while he ate, had refrained from asking Jack any more questions. Jack's mood had lightened since Billy's intervention, but not significantly. He couldn't help but think there was something more he could do. As they finished, and the waiters cleared away the dishes, Billy was fascinated by the simple event. Phat Cao descended the stairs and joined them at their table. He had changed from his black outfit to a soft purple set with the same white trim. Billy marveled that the man walked without making a sound. "Are you satisfied?" Phat asked. "Quite," Jack replied as he sat back and rubbed his stomach. Billy smiled sleepily. Phat gave Billy a sneer. "I don't know I like you yet. You stop asking me about my name. Maybe I like you. Actually, don't ask me no questions, and I like you lot more. Yes?" "So you don't want me to ask you any more questions?" Phat sighed and shook his head. "Jack, I tell you this, and I say no more. I think using Barbarian bad idea. But you pick him. You introduce him when we get there." Jack took a deep breath and looked from Phat to Billy and back to Phat. "Agreed. I know Billy is our man." This made Billy feel good. Jack would prove to be a good guy after all. "We go now. I get call, and we must leave immediately. You know boss not like kept me waiting." Phat stood up. Billy was becoming aware that Phat was a man of few words. With the quiet, ever-shifting gaze that Phat looked about with, Billy found himself nervous in a way he'd never thought. It was as if Phat was keeping a secret that he didn't want to tell anyone. As they left the restaurant, Billy felt the compelling need to ask a question. "What's a call?"
"Jack, you keep your friend quiet so I don't have to,"
Phat said without ever turning around to look at the two.
"Billy."
"I just asked a question."
"I understand, Billy, but—"
"Jack, it was only a question." Billy and Jack stopped in the entrance while Phat continued to the street. He waved his hand in the air, using the same offensive gesture Jack had used when he stopped the bus.
"Billy, a call is just what it sounds like. The boss is who we're on our way to see. The boss called, we go. Phat had a device in his office where he gets calls."
"I don't understand." Jack looked nervously where Phat was waiting.
"Have you ever heard of a crystal ball?"
"Yes."
"Think of it like two crystal balls. Phat can talk into one, and the boss can talk into the other, and they can hear each other."
Jack waited for Billy to grasp the concept. "And to talk to each other without being near each other is a call?"
"Exactly. Let's go,"
Jack said, eager to get to the street. "Why is Phat waving his hand in the air like that?" asked Billy as he started toward the street.
"He's hailing a taxi," Jack answered.
"Whatting a what?"
Jack hesitated and then said, "It'll make sense once one shows up."
"If you say so."
"I say so. Come on. Phat doesn't like to be kept waiting."
As the three stood waiting for what Jack had called a taxi, Billy tried to envision what it could be. He knew what hailing was now. It was saying hello or flagging down a vehicle. What or who a taxi was... Billy got his answer. A covered, yellow cart with a stripe of black and white checkers pulled up to a stop in front of the Phat Cao restaurant. It was being pulled by one of the brown featherless birds Billy had seen. As the door opened, Billy pointed to the bird.
"It's a volvellus, a skin bird. They're bred here in Sethopolis. They're quite unique to the city. They're also very, very fast. Now get in," Jack said rapidly before Billy could ask his question.
"Where is this—" Billy scratched his head and searched for the word one more time. "Taxi going to take us?"
"Just get in," Jack said. I tell you, didn't I? You no listen, do you?"
Jack sighed as he stepped into the taxi. Thank you for taking the time to listen to The Continuing Adventures of Billy Barbarian. For more information on this book and its author, please visit ofgnomesandDwarves.com or jrmurdoch.com. And again, thank you for listening.